What's going on, guys? Nick Santini here, and on today's video I'm going to be benchmarking the Ryzen 5 1600 build that I did a little while back. We had a couple of viewers that asked me to do a benchmark video, so that's what I'm here to do today, and yeah, let's get started. So in this PC I have a Ryzen 5 1600 CPU overclocked to a modest 3.8 GHz, a MSI B350 Tomahawk motherboard, 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance LPX memory clocked at 2667 MHz, and a 6 gigabyte EVGA GTX 1060 Super Clocked Edition graphics card. Alright, so as you can see in Cinebench, it's loading really fast. I mean, it's doing a remarkable job compared to the CPU that I was using. I was using an i3 4160, so this just blows it out of the water. You can definitely see the 12 threads working there. I mean, this CPU is just honestly a workhorse. So now as Cinebench is finishing up here, we see that it ended up with a score of 1243 across all CPU cores and all threads. And for single CPU, it was 154, which still isn't bad. I mean, it's really competitive with Intel's lineup. So now we're running the Firestrike benchmark, and I ran the standard Firestrike benchmark as well as Firestrike Extreme and Firestrike Ultra. And just to see how the system as a whole compares to some other systems. And I'd say it did a pretty good job. It's definitely not, you know, like the bleeding edge, cutting edge performance that you would get out of, you know, maybe a rig that has like a Titan GPU in it or something like that. But it's not bad. I would say it did a really good job. So now we're running the Doom benchmark. This is basically just loading the very beginning of Doom and just going through the paces of killing the first three imps, I think they call them. So what's most notable to me in this benchmark between the max and the low settings is that there's a lot more blurring and shading involved in the max settings that you just don't see in the low settings. So I wouldn't actually say one looks better than the other. I think they both look really good. So now we're moving on to Battlefield, and to be honest, it's really hard to distinguish low settings versus maxed out settings. And I know that kind of seems crazy, but as you can see from this gameplay, I mean, the only thing that I really notice is that on the low settings, there's a lot of like shiny parts on the tracks on the tank, which makes the maxed out settings look a little bit more realistic. But other than that, I mean, these are very similar. So FPS wise, we're coming in at over 60 FPS on maxed out settings. We're hovering around 70, 80, somewhere in there. So this is doing a really good job of keeping up with this game. Now on low settings, I mean, as you can see, the frame rate is almost double in most parts, which, I mean, that is to be expected. But what surprises me is the difference in quality isn't that drastic. Now I included Tomb Raider in this, even though it's an older title, because I really like the benchmark. It's nice and short, so I figured it'd be good for the video. And yeah, the frame rates on low are just absolutely ridiculous, like over 300. But the quality just isn't there. Now this is one of those games where there is a major difference between the maxed out settings and the low settings, and that should be pretty obvious. And as you can see from this still image, I mean, the difference in quality is pretty extreme. So just the textures on like the clothing and the actual body of the character is like drastically different. So the last benchmark I ran was GTA 5, and I had the settings absolutely maxed out, like as far as they would go, and for as much memory as I actually had available on my GPU, which is why the frame rates are under 60 FPS. But don't get me wrong, this is totally playable on settings completely maxed out. And honestly, these settings are higher than I would even have set in the first place. I probably would have had it around high settings with certain things on Ultra. But for this benchmark, I figured I would just set it all the way maxed out. And you can see there's quite a big difference between the quality of the low settings and the maxed out settings, but there's also a frame rate difference. So you're getting almost double to sometimes 3 times as many frames with the low settings. And as you can see from some of these stills, I mean, there's just a huge difference in quality. It's something that you wouldn't necessarily notice while you're playing it because the frames change so quickly. But when you stop it like this, it's completely obvious that the maxed out settings are far superior. So I know that wasn't an exhaustive list of benchmarks, but that's just what I happen to have on my computer at the time of filming this. So that's what I went with. Now I know also some of you are saying, but why would you benchmark max settings and low settings? What about everything in between? And that's because honestly, I think where this computer stands right now with most modern games, it's going to be on those high to ultra settings almost all the time. So, and that's going to give you around 60 FPS in almost every single one of the games that I tested. The only exception would be GTA 5, and that's because it uses an insane amount of memory. And you could see there in some of those under max settings, the GPU was at 99% like the entire time. So something I also want to point out is that the results that we got in Doom were a little bit weird. I can't figure out for the life of me why the results turned out the way that they did. For whatever reason, I was getting higher frame rates on max settings, and I ran the test a couple of times and I got the same results every time. So I'm not sure what's going on with Doom. Maybe it wasn't such a good title to use, so take the Doom ones with a grain of salt. So if you haven't already seen these videos, I posted a video where I built the computer that you see behind me, as well as the water cooling loop. It was the first time I had ever done a water cooling loop, and it turned out really well. So I recommend checking out those videos because they're pretty cool. So if you like this video, I recommend checking out my other videos, subscribing maybe, likes always help. So yeah, any of that would be awesome. And as always guys, I'll see you on the next one.